Good afternoon. How are you? Well, it's pretty cold out today, 37 degrees, but it's going to dive down into the 20s this evening, and there's snow warnings around the corner, and the wind, if we're not blocked by the shape of the roads here, is about 12 to 15 miles an hour. So it's a good day for to be a cold bird or indoors, one or the other. In the reign of error, I'm impressed with how dull are the senses of commentators to spin the hypotheticals they spin otherwise about the acts of terror in recent days. And not to beat a dead horse, but my thesis about it is because we have no respect for the law and for order, and everybody is in it for themselves, like, the days of the Wild West when they made their own law. See the Yellowstone show for what it's like when law is a little more flexible, shall we say. So it turns out that in the early morning hours after we crossed over into the new year in our time zone, that a Tesla Cybertruck parked outside a Trump hotel in Las Vegas, and a few moments later blew up. And the experts scratched their heads about what this could mean. Are you serious? You got a Tesla truck and you have a Trump hotel and you wonder what it is. Now, we have a similar situation. An ISIS faithful individual drove a truck down Louisiana, killed people, and again, the experts scratched their heads. What could it mean? Now, I suppose if you isolate yourself and don't want to extrapolate on what could be the cause of this, particularly when it reveals that our government may be a factor, we compromise the purpose of the First Amendment by journalists or anyone else to help our government stay on the straight and narrow and to do the right thing. So I assume the experts in and out of government and commentators, they all know or are stupid, because and if they know, it's to keep us in line, to keep us in the dark so that we don't object to a policy that's not in our best interest. That entire cycle suggests if information is kept from us, although they claim, secret intelligence and so forth, it's intelligence to mold what the public thinks is going on. Now, in this battlefield, in what I've called the reign of error, we ignore that also around New Year's, Israel attacked and killed persons, including women and children, in Gaza. Now, they could say Hamas started it because Hamas also fired. Now, what do these things have to do with us? Well, if Hamas is striking into Israel, why are they attacking civilians in the United States? Because the perception, true or not, is that we've not lifted a hand to deter the violence, and in fact, we supply the weapons. Now, a world is having trouble dealing with both sides, and put aside local punditry, we have a world court accusing both sides of the Middle East, Israel and Hamas, of war crimes, particularly what they're doing with women and children. You have to at least consider the question, are we creating a more insecure America because of our foreign policy? The world has shrunk, and if we genuinely have a way to solve this mess in the Middle East, to borrow from the Latin, or porte, te, it behooves us to do something. And we talk about it, and it appears that we're talking until the savagery will reduce everybody to blood and guts on this battlefield of terror and ideas and religious difference and land fights and territory. And it's like, whether it's World War I or II, the wars in between those, and now we have people fighting for power, and we're getting caught in between these guys and gals. So we are perceived to be in this war, even if not with boots on the ground, although some believe that we do have boots on the ground. Now we're in a kind of economic war. Trump, having announced what he's going to do with tariffs, has prompted the other side, anticipating that he will do what he says. Always a questionable situation. But they may believe that he says these things to terrorize others into running to make a settlement. Well, China doesn't think that way. China has sanctioned 10 defense companies, defense firms, from sending arms to Taiwan, which sort of fits their policy. And then they're also concerned about an antitrust violation by NVIDIA. And so they're also clamping down on them. So Trump is going to find, because of his errors, that he's not in isolation. This is no longer a campaign. He is trying to take on the world while he isolates us from the rest of the world and attacks at them. And this is before he's even taken office. Now, you might point out that what's going on in the Middle East is a problem for Biden, and it is, but it's also a problem for Trump. And it's amazing that we can do no better than we do on budget deals with international diplomacy. In fact, the fast step is to go right to the war and to defend the indefensible. That's what we do. That's what all governments, it seems, do. And we get encouraged on the exception when they seem to do what's right, and then they immediately disappoint us. And the real trick here, and the ethical, legal, and constitutional question, is the variance between what we say, whether it be scripture, legislation, court decisions, and our conduct. And the conduct tells it all. I said the other day, Sartre said we are potentially nothing, we're only what we've done. And I think that makes a lot of sense. There's nothing wrong with dreaming if it doesn't prompt you to try to make it possible, to make it real, if it helps you have an objective. But our objective, if you squint at the facts, is force, power, no lines of permissible resistance to war outrages in the new war. So we're in a new war. It's the same and different than previous wars, but the wars now are hard to contain. My dad, when I was younger, we were talking about war. I mean, he served in World War II. His brother was taken a prisoner of war. There were, and my grandfather had service and so forth. And my uncle-in-law, who married my aunt, was from South America, from Peru, and became a citizen fighting in the war. So there was conversation about it. And my dad, who had little patience for politics or politicians, he thought of it something like how honest wrestling matches are. And I had a grandmother who believed wrestling was true, and a grandfather, my dad's father, who thought politics was true. And my father said, beware of these thoughts. And why do people fight? In the unconscious level, my dad said, the world gets full of people and dissension, breakdown of communications. And so he didn't use the words thin the herd, I don't remember his precise words. He said we have wars and people die. And we diminish the population by the deaths. And we may discourage, at least for a time, the next war. And they do follow, and they become more and more treacherous and dangerous with the powers we have to destroy each other and the planet. You know, in a nation that already is comfortable with children being killed so that we can protect the right to own any gun, I guess up to a cruise missile in America, we've already decided that children and women don't matter as compared to other things. And war, an ideology between the crusade, Muslims and Christians at war with each other, is this really 2025? So our job is to murmur, shout, scream, whisper, dissension to those who think we should be living in a war. Because if there's any greater challenge to freedom, I don't know what it is. It is war. And it will be felt at every level, and people that we care about will be lost. And you can't underrate the violence of the economics that affect people, housing, food, and so forth. So if we're not careful with a reality TV president who doesn't know anything, and he's proven it time and again, the reign of error can turn to terror. So that's a couple of thoughts I had in the early days of the new year. And here I am in a chilly cathedral of trees, and there are among these trees around me, trees that will live longer than you or I. And we should do what we can to see that we pass on a world to our children, our friends, and the people we care about that's better than the one we came into. All the best. Bye-bye.